The second phase and the third tranches of 2 billion and 200 million, respectively, were disbursed as part of monthly capitation with effect from July 2021. The initial, interim, and partial implementation of the CBA arose from the fact that Salaries and Remuneration Commission had in 2019 and 2020 understated to the Ministry of Education and the National Treasury that the total cost of implementing the CBA was 8.8 billion instead of 16.5 billion. This was despite the fact that in 2019, IPCCF, together with finance officers and the SRC technical team, had arrived at the cost of CBA to be 13.812 billion, exclusive of pension liabilities. As a result of that, this matter went up to the Employment and Labor Relations Court. And on 3rd July 2020, the Employment and Labor Relations Court directed that the CBA be implemented in the interim. And on 15th January 2021, the court handed down its final judgment, which clarified that the cost of the CBA was 16.57 billion, based on the correct formula for calculating the financial requirements. Therefore, the court directed SRC, IPCCF, Ministry of Education, and National Treasury to work together and provide additional funds for the full implementation of the CBA. Thus, effective 15 January 2021, the issue would have been resolved, and the current crisis would have been averted. To delay the matter further, the Ministry of Education, rather than working with the National Treasury, appealed the judgment of the Employment and Labor Relations Court at the Court of Appeal. And the Court of Appeal eventually dismissed the appeal on 28th March 2025. I want to say, as a result, I wrote to IPCCF on 28th March 2025 for them to honor the CBA. They did not respond to it. Again, I did a reminder in May 2025, asking IPCCF to honor the CBA. They did not respond to it. On 10th April 2025, after the dismissal of the Ministry of Education appeal, the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya advised the Principal Secretary, State Department for Higher Education and Research, to comply with the court judgment and implement the 2017-2021. I want to say, to date, they have not complied with even the advisory of the Attorney General of the Republic of Kenya. At this point, the university staff remained hopeful that the outstanding balance would soon be settled. However, when no progress was made, the unions issued a strike notice on 10 September 2025. To make matters worse, in the course of the strike, SRC, IPCCF, Ministry of Education, National Treasury, who had been directed to work together by the court as far back as 15 January 2021, began issuing conflicting statements to the public. On Saturday, 4th October 2025, the CS National Treasury stated on citizenTV weekend evening program that the confusion arose between SRC and Ministry of Education. He did not know why the lecturers had waited for so long before raising the issue. The National Treasury still did not have the facts, that the facts were with Salaries and Remuneration Commission and the Ministry of Education. He urged SRC and Ministry of Education to work together. On 8th October 2025, the CS Ministry of Education appeared before the National Assembly and asserted that the outstanding balance for 2020 2017-2021 was 624 million. The PS State Department for Higher Education stated to the public that is SRC that had notified Ministry of Education that the outstanding balance for 2017-2021 CBAs was 624 million. In order to resolve the issue, the representatives of the Council of Public Universities and the union held conciliation meetings under the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. The outcome of the conciliation process was a recommendation by the conciliator that a meeting between the university councils and the unions be convened to order the implementation of 2017-21 CBA. On 9th October 2025, JNC of the unions and the university councils was convened and agreed to constitute a joint technical committee to re-examine the financial requirements of 2017-21 CBA and verify the calculations by SRC. The joint technical committee undertook its work from 10th to 13th October 2025 in Machakos and concluded in its report as follows. 1. The verification revealed that the workings of SRC that indicated the outstanding balance of 624 million was arrived through an erroneous method. The SRC methodology was inconsistent with the diagonal method of calculation of arrears as approved by the Employment and Labor Relations Court, and therefore was invalid. The verification also established that the total outstanding balance amounted to 7.9 billion. SRC and Ministry of Education were dissatisfied with the finding and stated that the unions were confused and we needed to go back to school. SRC, Ministry of Education, and PSCF commissioned yet another verification exercise conducted jointly by their own officers to the exclusion of the unions. The audit exercise was concluded between 18th and 21st October 2025 and concluded that the amount owed to university staff as at 21st October 2025 is Kenya shillings 7,944,519,929 shillings. In essence, confirming the figures that had been established 6 years ago in 2019 as correct. On 24th October 2025, the union met with the IPCCF. During the meeting, upon confirmation of IPCCF that the Ministry of Education, SRC, and National Treasury, after 6 years of needless struggle and suffering by university staff, that the initial cost of the CBA had been confirmed, and the union demanded the immediate release of the outstanding balance, taking into account that the amount in question was mutually agreed upon and became due 6 years ago. In that meeting, IPCCF came up with a proposal to settle the 8 years arrears in 3 phases. If you check the minutes that I've attached, the payment in phases was a proposal from IPCCF, and the union did not agree with that proposal. So it took us aback when the Ministry of Education and National Treasury now adopted a phased payment. It therefore can be concluded that we have social partners that do not believe in the philosophy of collective bargaining agreement, because they come up with their own position, and it is that position that they want to force down our throats. The court judgment of 15 January 2021 did not direct that after ascertaining the additional figure that it should be implemented in phases. I've attached the judgment there. There's nowhere in that judgment where the court directed that we should be paid in phases.
Order SG. You've given us a document we are following.
Okay.
I'll request that you strictly follow it. Those are the issues you'll raise when you are actually answering questions.
Okay.
Stick to it.
The workers were demanding. The workers were not demanding any interest on the late payment.
Order. How many minutes are remaining?
How many? 10.
Time
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
You have 6 minutes. Yes.
It is important to note that the workers are not demanding any interest on the late payment. The real figure of the money has been severely eroded over the years by inflation, loss of purchasing power, the introduction of new taxes not in existence in 2019, such as affordable housing levy, SHA deductions, meaning that in effect, only about half of the amount would now accrue to workers. The unions have been unfairly blamed by the stakeholders, including Ministry of Education, here's National Treasury, for the delay in settlement, even though it is the IPCCF, Ministry of Education, and SRC who have relied on endless court processes to postpone payment and then shift the blame to the unions. I want now to move to 2025-2029 collective bargaining agreement. While IPCCF has just only agreed after a long delay to commence negotiations on the 2025-2029 CBA, the counteroffer presented by government of 3.1 billion to cover the basic salaries for the entire 4-year period with the respect grossly inadequate as illustrated below. In 2013-2017 CBA, the amount for basic salary and annual increments was 15.2 billion for 4 years. 2017-2021, the same 16.57 billion for salaries and pension component for 4 years. 9.7 for 2 years. Therefore, the unions are taken aback that a CBA that is going to take 4 years is being estimated to cost 3.1 billion. It represents an average annual increment of 2% or cumulative 8.25% over 4 years, whereas other public sectors, workers in education such as teachers, have been offered 12%, 29.5% increment under their 2025-2029 CBA. The offer falls substantially below the parameters of the Consumer Price Index as provided under the Wage Guidelines 2025, which serve as a reference point for CBA negotiations. Based on CBI projections, a baseline increment of at least 26.1% over the 4 years period would merely serve to compensate for loss of purchasing power. In this context, harmonization with the 29.5% increment according to teachers, the Teacher Service Commission framework would ensure fairness and equity across public sector. I want to move to the way forward, Honorable Chair. Will the unions urge this Honorable Committee to prevail upon IPCCF, Ministry of Education, and the National Treasury to release the outstanding 7.9 billion at once to fully implement 2017-21 CBA. The next, we ask the House to prevail upon IPCCF, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Labor, Social Protection to adopt anti-ministerial and the whole of government approach under the chairmanship of Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection to engage the unions with a view to expediting the resolution of all outstanding matters, including at the point of drafting and eventual return to work formula. Lastly, we want to impress upon the House to ensure that IPCCF, in collaboration with SRC, the Ministry of Education, and National Treasury, presents a fair and reasonable offer to the unions to facilitate the negotiation, signing, registration, and implementation of 2025-29 CBA without undue delay, as occurred in the 2017-21 CBA. Lastly, Honorable Chair, request Education Committee to allocate and appropriate adequate funds to support the full implementation of the 2025-29 CBAs once concluded. As we conclude, UASU, KUSA, and KUDEA would like to appreciate the opportunity granted by the National Assembly Education Committee to provide the perspectives of both academic staff and university staff. Thank you, and may God bless you abundantly.
Thank you. You've made your presentation very well. Now we come to the CS and your team.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, what's out of order?
Chair, just as a matter of concern, you will find that SRC is adversely mentioned in these presentations. But during the introduction and looking at the letter that invited all the stakeholders seated in front of us, SRC was one of the invited bodies. I didn't hear any SRC member here, neither did I hear the chair reading an apology.
I had indicated in my preliminaries that I called the SRC personally and the labor relations and the labor CS, and he had indicated that in their submissions and what the SG is saying, they were part and parcel of an agreement which the CS and the team will be able to table before this committee. So they felt that because the issues that they are what is raising, they have already discussed and they have tabled before this, it will not actually have time to do that presentation because it is part of government agencies who are here. And the two top government leaders who are here are the CS National Treasury and the CS Education. So, and they say that they were part of your discussions. Is that okay? They were part of the discussion. So I allowed them because they didn't want to, they said, we have made part of a bargain, but if need be arising out of this discussion, if there is need for us to call them, we shall invite them, if that is the case. Yes, we can. Yes.
Thank you, Chair, for that clarification. And I concur with the Honorable Gisairo. From the presentation we've had from the union, and I know the ministry will talk about it, the SRC appears to be the main fulcrum around which this mess has been created. And
not to say the issues
that have been created. And if the ministry is confident enough, they can represent SRC, fair enough. But SRC should have appeared here.
Thank you. I think that's proper. Let's go back to
Chair. And in addition, are the unions comfortable with the absence of the SRC?
Honorable Chair, can I answer?
No.
Okay.
First of all, members, I just want us not to go into another discussion about the presence or the non-presence of SRC. Issues will be raised about SRC in this discussion. And because we are the arbitrating committee, the committee might think properly that we invite SRC on its own, and they are going to give us their part of the story. So them being here or not being here, let's not discuss it now. Let's allow the Minister of Education to make presentation, but we shall know in our discussion that if there is a gap, we shall invite SRC to appear. Proceed, Waziri.